Were you the bully in middle school?
No, no, that's not very nice.
You were in Belgium. weren't you?
All right.
No, I still
Oh,
have
we're
tons
not
of
on
friends from high school because I was so nice.
We're running, you know. I don't see my face up there. Oh, there we are. All right, so good evening. It's 6:15 planning board meeting for August 3rd. We'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. We have a 6:15 continued public hearing for 515 Newtown Road, Storage Rental of America. Do we have a date that we're continuing it to, Myron?
Yep, so we have a request to continue to the first meeting in September, which would be Thursday, September 7th. And if we do that one at 6:15 PM.
What? Why are we starting at 6:50? Is it no reason? Okay. There's a method to your madness?
Yeah. Well, we'll start the meeting at 6 and we'll put this as the first hearing at 6:15.
Okay.
First continued hearing at 6:15,
Okay.
if the board so votes.
Sure. Does anybody care? 6:15? Good?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anna,
Aye.
are you good with that, Anna?
She's nodding yes.
Oh, she's not.
G nodding, yes.
Okay, well, how come
Yes,
she's not
thank
over
you.
there? Never mind. You know, what, this is too technical for me. All right, so we have a 6:20 site plan review, 12 Robertson Road, redevelopment of the village in the Village Common District. Please. For all of you that don't know, this is the parcel that the town owned and is selling to
Yes.
you. Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. I'm behind the board here a little bit, so these are not a good placement for this, but I'll speak quickly anyway.
I'm gonna move them.
Maybe a little. I can't see anybody on this side of the room. Thank you. So good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, my name is Attorney Melissa Robbins. I'm from the law firm of Farrell and Robbins. I'm here tonight for 12 Robinson Road. With me is Joe Cataldo, the applicant, Matt Waterman, who's the engineer from Landtech, and Jim Zegowitz, who is the architect from MZO Group. As the chairman has stated, we're here tonight for site plan review for the redevelopment of the property at 12 Robinson Road. Mr. Cataldo was successful in his RFP bid with the town of Littleton and is now under purchase and sales agreement to buy this property. The proposal is to maintain the existing structure in the front of the property, and we're going to place 2 units in that property. The development will also create 2 new units in the rear. The applicant considered various alternatives back there. It's probably changed a little bit since the last time the board has seen this. But what we've decided on is 2 smaller units would be perfect. They have first floor bedrooms. They'll be perfect for downsizers or somebody looking for a first time homeowner unit. They will not be deed restricted, but as you can see from their side, they will be restricted in price because of the size of the units in themselves. So they will be affordable, certainly affordable for new construction in the town of Littleton right now. All of these units will be 2 bedrooms, the new ones and the new units within the structure. And talking with Maren and going through this process, this will be the first multifamily housing that's going to be created in the Village Common District, which will support the intent of the bylaw to have multiple uses in the village district. So we're excited to be the first one here using the code-based zoning, and you're going to hear a lot from Jim in a minute about how the housing really fits into the overlay. Mr. Cataldo cares deeply about refurbishing this home and revitalizing the site. I think in this instance, it's very helpful that your developer is also in a butter. Because he looks at this every day, he drives past it to his own home, and he really wants to make this be a nice structure to turn over to a condo association when he's done the construction. You can also see from the plans that a significant time and attention went to the historical design of the existing structure. We've been working, even before we won the RFP process, with the Historical Commission to ensure that the values they wanted to keep in this home were kept post-development. I won't get into that too deeply because you're going to hear a lot of that from Jim in a moment. Detail has also gone into the landscaping and access, as well as keeping the new structures and parking in the rear of the site so that you won't see them from the street. As part of the initial part of the process, we heard a lot from abutters along this road that they did not want more cars parked here. I know that's an issue in the neighborhood with cars parked there for other uses. So we were sure to make sure that we had parking in the rear, and that was one of the reasons we lost a unit, because we wanted to make sure there was enough room for the units, enough room for the parking and the amenities we wanted to have. I think at this point what I'll do is I'll turn it over to Matt Waterman to go through the civil design of the project.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm thinking that I need to recuse myself on this. I'm not a direct abutter, but I am within 300 feet.
It's
What?
already improved,
Okay, this is
Farm-based
this is
alternative?
just a form, okay, fine. I mean, I
It-
just want to bring it up.
Yeah, it's
I don't wanna
up to
recuse
you.
myself,
It's
but-
up to you, but I
Yeah.
don't think you need to.
Okay.
How's the rest of the board feel?
I don't see any reason to.
And applicant, do you have any problem with?
No objection.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, thank you. For the record, Matt Waterman with Land Tech Consultants. I'll just go through a little bit. I'm sure everyone's familiar with the property, but just go through it quickly. It's 12 Robinson Road. It's parcel U715. It's currently a residential use. It's the former Benjamin Kimball House with a history of 1673. So it's a very historic house. The lot size is about 0.71 acres with about 140 feet of frontage. And as Melissa said, we're in the Village Common District overlay. We've got commercial properties kind of to the north, south, and west, and then as you proceed down Robinson Road, there is a transition into residential. So we're right on that edge of the residential. It is located about 200 feet to the east of the intersection of Robinson Road and Great Road, Route 119. And I think since we last, you can look at the plan behind Marn, we kind of switched the driveway. We did come back in April and kind of give the board a general discussion before we filed. But we have the driveway on the right-hand side. It's actually where the existing curb cut is for the existing house. And what that does is help preserve the vegetation along the frontage. There's a catalpa tree to the left of the house or to the west of the house that is very prominent. And so there was our goal was to try and preserve as much of that vegetation along Robinson Road as possible. There's a couple, two younger dogwood or like shade tree type trees, and then there was another dogwood to the right that we were trying to, so we kind of brought that driveway in and snaked it around. We might have to tree well that, but we were just trying to maintain that vegetation to the extent practical. It does eliminate any new curb cuts or the requirement of a special permit with the code-based zoning. And then, as Melissa said, it focused the parking in the rear of the property. The requirement is for 1.25 parking spaces per unit, which is 5 for this development. We provide 11 total spaces. There'll be 4 in the garage. Each unit will get 1 space. And then there'll be 7 surface parking spaces for a total of 11. You can see also where we kind of focused the garage in the back. At one point we had it rotated 90. We felt like this was kind of a better layout. It helps divide the space. It creates kind of 2 distinct spaces between the historic house and then the new development in the back, the duplex. This garage, we alternate access to the garage from each side of it. We just felt like that, it took advantage of the space kind of a little more economically, and it helped kind of develop those 2 distinct spaces. Snow storage, I know we hadn't never gotten into that. We did create snow storage spaces at the end of all the long travel aisles for a small lot. We felt that was important. And then we also, and I think the important thing is that we really did preserve the majority of the street view of everything in front of the historic house. And having that single access driveway certainly promotes that. We did submit a quick traffic study for the 4 units, multifamily. It ends up in 30 vehicle trips per day, which is 1 trip in, 1 trip out is a trip end, with a peak rate of 3 vehicles per hour during the PM, between 5 and 7. we didn't think that there was a significant impact with that, and I think we kind of focused on pedestrian access. We incorporated in the development that I think this board just approved for the Northern Bank. They have a crosswalk or a handicap ramp right in the kind of the northwest corner of their property facing our property. So we proposed a crosswalk and then a new sidewalk along our frontage. This sidewalk does extend to the right, slightly across the next lot on Robinson Road, but to the west, it does extend and connect into the sidewalk system or the sidewalk network of Littleton Common. So this will certainly help promote that. And from there, they have access to the commuter shuttle that's available on 110. And then it also promotes pedestrian to the new commercial properties that are coming with the Northern Bank. Landscaping, and if you click to the next page, Maren, we had a landscape plan prepared that focused on preserving that vegetation towards the front of the property or the south of the property, and then really kind of focused on along the property lines to on the westerly property line. There's a lot of new vegetation to create a buffer along that westerly property line, and then on the easterly property line where we didn't have as much room, we're going to be providing a fence. It'll be a 4-foot fence out in the front from like the house forward or the front of the house forward, and then it'll transition into a 6-foot fence as you get to the front of the barn, and then it'll be a 6-foot. And the goal there was to minimize impacts along Robinson Road, but also trying to get as much screening and buffering to the abutter to the east. And we felt like the fence kind of accomplished that. It does screen obviously the headlights and the parking as vehicles are entering and exiting. And I think what we've all had on our plans all along is the pocket park in the southwest corner. We did slide it off to the left. It's be public access. It'll have a little bench and then a plaque kind of outlining the historical significance of the house. We would certainly work with the Historical Commission to come up with some language that everyone agrees upon. Stormwater, where this is a smaller lot, we did kind of focus just on some generalized treatment with a drip edge around the new duplex building and then a small yard drain just to the right of the garage to try and capture as much of the runoff from the parking areas as feasible. And lastly, I'll close with utilities. It does obviously all new improvements, electric, water, gas. It will be a septic system that'll be behind the garage and in front of the duplex for 8 bedrooms or roughly 880 gallons per day. All the units will share the one septic system, so it'll be a common septic system. We've done testing with the Neshoba Board of Health, and so I think we're well prepared to proceed with the septic design if the board approves it. I'll turn it over to Jim, who's got a lot more to say.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jim Zegowitz. I'm with the MZO Group Architects out of Stoneham, with a nice little remote office right over here in Westford. We'll run you through this thing, go through the buildings as we see them on the site, as we experience them on the site. So we'll initially start out with the farmhouse, move on to the garage, and ultimately end up with the proposed duplex in the back. So, as you see, there's our conceptual sketch of the existing house and barn. What can I say about this one? It's as everyone's been saying, it will wind up. It will be renovated into a 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath per unit building. Unit 1 will have 2,540 square feet. Unit 2 will have 1,539 square feet. The whole building gross total square foot would be about 4,082 square feet. Thinking of the form-based zoning, I would call this a building complex composed of 4 forms. The first being a very simple gable form, on the left-hand side, which is the existing old, the existing house. And it is connected to another primary form on the right, being the barn, which is a very simple gable structure, short end towards the street. It's connected by a side addition, being the breezeway that you see there with the 2 arches. And in the back, there's what's been described as the Beverly Jog in the historic write-up and description. That is what would qualify as a rear addition that currently stretches the full length of the existing house. Our intent, if you could click to the next page. Next page after that, please. Thank you. Our intent is to, right now on the second floor, there's a real ugly addition that pops out the rear of the Beverly Jog. Not quite sure when it was put there. It wasn't any time recent, but it's certainly not historic in the terms of 150 years ago. As well as the entire kitchen area. If you on the first floor, let's step back a second. The primary building is the first 2 rooms on the lower part of that sheet that you can see left to right. On the right-hand side will be the dining room. The left-hand side will be a living room. Excuse me. On either side of a giant chimney mast that you'll see has that right there is a pretty big open hole in the middle of the building. Behind that currently exists a kitchen sort of eat-in area with a staircase that accesses the second floor, as well as the all the way to the left-hand side, the first room with the Beverly Jog. Everything in this entire building, there's one room there that's over 7 feet tall. Everything else is way under. So especially the kitchen, the existing kitchen that you see on the first floor, behind that giant chimney mast, everything along that whole area is about 6'8", somewhere between 6'6" and 6'8". So our intent is to remove that entire kitchen area and to create a new rear addition to the back that you see poking out to the north of the page. It has a large seating group out there, as well as a kitchen to the right. And what that will do for us is it's going to give the house some room that has some reasonable headroom, and that will also have our stair that will access the second floor, which we intend to keep almost 100% intact, other than the improvements that we'll need to make the building livable. We're going to add a bathroom on the second floor. If you can go to the second floor. There'll be a bathroom on the second floor in the location of the south hall, which is directly south of the giant fireplace mass. But the 2 bedrooms flanking left and right will be left pretty much intact, other than the modifications we need to get that bathroom in there. So back to the access getting up to that floor. We're going to have a stair. You'll see a dogleg staircase to the right. That'll bring you up over the existing fireplace and historic mantles and all the woodwork on the first floor. It'll create sort of like a framing focal point within the new addition. When you're out in the new addition, the living space, kitchen, eating areas, you'll be turning around looking back towards the historic structure, and that whole fireplace, mantle, wainscoting and everything on that wall will be framed by the balcony going over and preserved as required by our deed restriction and in working with the Historic Commission. What else? On the second floor, we have a full bathroom where there used to be that kind of weird addition poking out the back. So that will give us, and that will be tucked under a nice little shed dormer on the second floor. You see, we'll see when we get to the elevations that it's, when we initially spoke with the Historic Commission, we mentioned that all our additions out the back will be limited, pulled way off the left-hand side of the building, and limited in height as much as we possibly could, so that nothing pokes out over the ridge. From the street, the building will look exactly like it, well, very substantially like it does today, with the exception of newer windows, probably a new front door, and some modifications to the front end of the barn. If we can go back to the first floor. Between the existing house and the barn, there's a breezeway right now that you walk in there, and that's about 6 foot, that is about 6 foot 2 inch head height. So through our discussions, it's in, when you get there, you'll see that the floor is pretty much rotted out, sills are gone. Things are leaning, twisting, turning. We did discuss with the Historic Commission and got their approval to raise the roof on that. We're going to maintain the form as much as possible. The roof pitch will stay the same. In elevation, you'll see that the arches that are currently there, those will be preserved. They'll just be raised about a foot or so that it'll look substantially the same as it does today. We're gonna have a little bit bigger window in there to shed some light into those spaces. On the first floor, those are sort of your entry foyer spaces in there, sort of coat room, a coat closet and mudroom area with a half bath on either side. What else? Moving to the right, going into the barn, our intent there is to keep that structure as open as possible. It's got a great timber frame in there that our intent is to not start hacking and cutting through any of those members. They're spaced a little tight for that, but I think through our installation of the whole second floor and plumbing and everything else that we're gonna need to do in there, the existing slab will get removed. And our intent is to drop the slab, it could be up to about a foot in order to get reasonable head height in there. That'll get our windows in under some of the perimeter beams that are running around there, so without us cutting and hacking up the existing structure. And it'll provide us reasonable headroom on the second floor. But on the first floor, the programmatic elements you have there, the entry foyer area. On the south side, you'll see there's sort of a small working space, a large seating area to the right where the existing barn door is. The existing barn door, we're going to leave that opening as a depression in the facade. We'll treat it differently with vertical siding, sort of reminiscent of the vertical boards that compose the doors there now. And it's our intent to leave out the second floor above that, expose the timber frame there so that you'll have a nice 2-volume space in that unit in which your living space will be. Then the stairs the kitchen and dining room will happen in the back of the building. And the stairs, switchback stair will happen, taking us to the second floor between the front and back there. And that basically gets us up to the second floor. We'll have a master bedroom to the back with a ensuite bath, decent closet space. You have, also on the second floor, you'll have your laundry space and your second bed and second bath. And so you can see the open space. If you look to the right lower corner of that barn, that's the kind of open space that you'll see as you're walking up the stairs and as you're in the living room watching TV or whatever. You'll have a nice double volume space. Next slide, please. So these are the elevations. It's kind of hard to read here, it's so small, but I think if you look at the drawings that you got in your packet, you'll see that we have shown underneath the proposed drawings that we see there, dashed lines that represent the existing conditions. So if you look closely at the arches there at the breezeway and at the top of the breezeway roof, you'll see that we've raised that whole assembly up about 1.5 feet or so. That's what you see, sort of a double dash lines going on in there. We've added a sum total of 1 window to the barn besides at the barn door. On the ground floor, you'll see a double hung window, and to the right of that double hung window is the barn door type thing. We added, there are 2 small sash windows in that barn door. We're going to expand those into full height double hung windows with transoms of some configuration on top. The 1 window we have added to that elevation is directly above the left-hand double hung window. That will be the primary window into the bedroom towards the front of the unit there. Let's see, okay, on the lower elevation, you see the lower elevation on the right-hand side is Robinson Road. So, and that the primary gable of the existing home remains fully intact. We haven't changed that at all. Same with the jog, the Beverly jog that folks out there that has a triple window, that remains intact. We're likely to replace the windows, replace the siding. Again, as noted with the Historic Commission, and we'll work with them while we do this. There's a shed roof that you see coming off just near just below the existing ridge. That will house the new bathroom that you saw on the second floor. Then you'll see there's what looks like that shed roof keeps on going, and then there's a small gable that pokes up back there, and that is the living room and the volume space that'll take us up the stair into the existing second floor. Next slide, please. Okay, so the top drawing is the rear of the building. Moving right to left, you'll see that small shed dormer that pokes out above the first floor. And then you see a bunch of dashed lines. It looked like a broken gable that was there. That's the weird addition that's currently there. That if you, that houses a bathroom and the stair to the second floor. To get to the second floor, you'd have to duck under the 5-foot head height to get up that stair, but that's why all that stuff goes away. Let's see, what else about this one? There is, you can see the two doors in the breezeway connection between the house and the barn. And on the back of the barn, there are, these are all new windows, new slider. 2 windows on the second floor will be for the master bedroom and bath. On the first floor will be the kitchen windows, and then there will be a dining room, a slider for the dining room there. On the right side elevation to the bottom of the page, starting from the back to right to left, you have double windows in the dining area with a couple of windows stacked above that in the bedroom. And moving to the left, you'll see 2 new double hung windows with small transoms on top of it. Those are in the double volume space of the living room that will now occupy that space in the barn. Next slide, please. I'm sorry, I'll go quicker.
Can I stop you?
Sure.
Very quickly? I think we can all agree you've done a phenomenal job preserving the building and everything else like that. We're not pressed for time, but I'd like to
Move along.
we'll move on, but have some time left so the board can ask questions and things
Okay.
like that. I think
You've all seen the drawings?
you've done a phenomenal job of preserving the intent of what's out there now, and, you know, I just, unless you guys
Go ahead,
have
questions?
questions.
No,
I
I'll be happy to
concur.
answer any questions.
I think that people might want to see the 2 new units, but in terms of the existing, it looks great.
Yeah.
Good.
Mr. Chairman, do you want a quick rundown on the duplexes?
Real quick. And then,
Much
'cause
faster.
we-
Much faster.
I want to ask if there's any in the audience, and we might have a couple questions.
So if you, 2 more. One, there's a garage, there's the first floor. So the first floor is primarily a big rectangle. Got a bay window, yes, bay windows, it's qualified in the code. Bay window to the left, bay window to the right, 2 bay window assemblies to the front. Each unit's gonna be about 1,600 square feet. First floor will have a kitchen, living, dining area. I have a first floor master suite with a full bath, and then additional half bath. If you look on the left-hand side, it's sort of very linear along the left-hand side. You walk in the door at the recess there with the big arrow, sort of look off to one side, try and give you as long a view path as possible. It goes into the dining area, and then it'll sweep you around to the living room. Same general composition for the unit to the right. Next slide. On the second floor, you get to the top of the stair on either unit. The intent was to have a full width balcony, or as much as possible, overlooking the first floor. On the left-hand unit, that is accomplished. We also have an additional bedroom up there, full bathroom that has a Jack and Jill entrance, so people in the loft can use the bathroom, as well as having a private entrance to the bathroom from the bedroom. Same configuration on the right, a little bit squeezed due to the stair, but the same general idea. You'll have a loft area, bedroom, shared bathroom, and your walk-in closet. I think that's about it. Other than the height, the idea here was to keep the building as low as possible. That's why we designed it with this, as a single gable structure with little things poking out of it to give us room on the second floor. We didn't really want to compete with the composition at the front of the lot. And that's it.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions or concerns?
No, I have a question about the garage unit. So it looks like there are going to be 4
Yes.
spots?
Yep.
2 from the front, 2 from the back.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty novel idea that if you flip it around, it's the same exact elevations minus the dormers. The dormers will face the Robinson Road area, but if you're looking straight down on the floor plan, yes, the stalls are at either different ends, but if you look at the elevations, it looks exactly the same.
Do you have an exterior schematic? I think I can see one.
There.
No, oh, I'm sorry. I was
Oh,
looking for a
colored one?
rendition, yeah.
We do not have a colored one.
Okay.
I'd like to point out there's a building there already.
Yes.
Maybe not in that exact same spot, but there's a,
An
it used to be a
all-round building.
foundry.
Mhm.
So,
Any other questions?
no, I want to compliment you.
Mm-hmm. It looks great.
Bartlett?
I compliment the whole team.
When I was reviewing the drawings, I noticed that in one place, the driveway was 12 feet wide, in one place it was 16 feet wide, and I was just wondering what, yeah.
12 feet wide. I think it was a typo. At one
Okay.
point I had 16.
All right.
But unfortunately, there's only enough room when you're coming on that right-hand side of the barn to
Right.
fit the 12.
12 foot would fit, the 16 wouldn't.
I appreciate as a neighbor that you wound the driveway around the dogwood. It's a gorgeous pink dogwood. So,
Anna, do you have any questions or concerns?
I did have some questions, thank you. Thank you everyone for being in. My first one is it possible to see the rendition of the duplex in the back? Because that wasn't part of our packet, and it would be good to see that rendering of the duplex. Is it available to put up on the screen?
Can you see that?
Thank
It's right there.
Okay.
Yeah, and I will add these to the project page, the colored ones to the project page.
Any other questions or concerns, Anna?
Yeah, so hold on a minute, Mark, please. So my only comment to this is regarding the form-based code is with respect to any sort of additions to the front. In terms of a porch, I don't see a lot there in terms of the porch space. And so I'm hoping that you all can revisit some of that information that's currently in the form-based code to see if there can be some additional ideas around that. For example, perhaps some additional seating space. Just looks really small, so that was my question.
So,
Um,
sorry, I didn't interrupt.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, so, I agree with you, it's trying to keep the building as tight as possible. It could have wound up with, essentially, we're identifying it as the stoop, not the, what is it, the dooryard or stoop. So we're gonna call it a stoop. It does have a small, stairway leading to the porch, but
But if you added
The
a porch, that would totally change the look of a very historical home.
right, so the
I
idea
mean-
there is that if we can go, well, that porch area is recessed.
This is the back part.
We're talking
Right.
about the duplex, not the original
Yeah,
home.
the
Yeah, I know we're
duplex.
not gonna do
Yeah.
that.
Oh, okay.
So,
I just meant the duplex.
well,
That one?
there you go.
there you go.
So the porch is fairly wide. Dimensions here, that, it's 12 feet wide, and it's about 4.5 feet deep. I know in the form-based zoning, they would like to, if we went for, I forget what they call it, a actual porch, I think they want a 6x6 seating area.
Okay, so you're going with the door, with the,
Say
with
stoop.
the, okay, all right. And
There was no place that I saw, sorry to interrupt again, but I didn't see in the code, any place that would allow, or anything that identified a recess in the facade as we would use and as we see all over the place.
Okay.
So I was kind of curious how to
Well, I
address
guess
that. So
ultimately what I'm getting to is, in the design guidelines, whether it's porch or stoop, whatever it is, just making it a little bit more inviting, and it's one of the things that I think, if you all want to take a look at it, I know it's something that we can certainly talk through a little bit more if you would like, but it is one of the hallmarks of that, and if folks are going to be sitting out on their stoop, you know, what is it that's going to be making it more inviting? Is it the landscaping? Is it an overhang? Whatever it is. So that's what I'm asking about, for you to just take another look at that.
Can I make a couple comments? Just there's the covered element. The actual porch itself could extend beyond that a couple feet. Or you could, in the landscaping, do a, because you have the parking, anyway, you could accomplish some kind of inviting seating area in the
Yes.
landscaping.
Absolutely.
Instead of part of the actual
Oh,
home.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we have a little bit of space there, excuse me, Mr.
Well,
Chair. So
I
we
mean,
can expand those little.
the
areas.
applicant has a landscape business, so and very accomplished work. It seems like it could be, toned up a little bit.
Yes.
Anna, any other questions or concerns before I open up?
So I do have one other question, and so I just wanted to get a status update about the preservation restriction and where that currently resides and the purchase and sale.
So the purchase and sale is executed, so that's great. The preservation restriction, the Historical Commission has actually hired a consultant, and she's been fantastic to work with. We had some revisions to the documents today. There'll actually be two separate documents, an agreement with the Historical Commission and then the preservation restriction itself, and I'd say we're 90% there. So everything's working great with the Historic Commission and the consultant, and we're moving right along.
How will you convey the restrictions to the owners who own this?
Well, the good news about historical preservation restriction, it moves with the land just like a conservation restriction. And then it'll also be part of the condominium association documents that they'll take over. And any work that's left open, the historical restriction that we're signing separate with the commission would also move over automatically. Everybody's on the hook going forward. But the work will be done before Mr. Cataldo leaves the project in any case.
So, Mr. Chair, I'm assuming that we will have other opportunities for questions, and if not, I will email the questions that I have further.
Okay, thank you. Board, have any other questions?
I was just mildly curious about the number of parking spaces. It seems like 7 is a lot beyond the 4 that are in the garage.
Well, I can tell you that, yes, it's in excess of what we need by the zoning, but we understand that there's an issue here with people parking along the roadway. So if people had guests over, we wanted to be cognizant of the fact that they could have extra parking area.
Okay.
So that's why the garage was designed that way, and that's why the units were tucked back further so that you could actually have parking in front of the units, and then that the unit in the front could also have its own separate parking. We can be self-sufficient in here without having to park in the road.
I would say I appreciate that, because in that particular spot, parking on the street is really difficult because it's where people enter and exit, a small road. So I also know that the front building does not have a cellar except in one small area. And it's possible that the garages for those units may be used for things other than cars. So, and I think to make an effort to avoid street parking, I appreciate it.
I'm going to open up to the public if we don't have any other questions. If there's anybody here who wants to ask a question or two, raise your hand and I'll acknowledge you. Somebody here? Yes, sir, in the back. Name, please, from Lauren.
John Ledger, 3 Roger. And I had 2 questions. One, what was the color combination of the project going to be, 12 Robinson? And also, whether or not the new construction was going to be built into the old structure or was going to be a separate structure?
So, currently, the idea is at the front is to have a white building with a charcoal roof, a red barn, reminiscent of what you would typically see in New England. Currently, we have the door shown as a wood stain type door, and the infill of the arches that are, again, they're already there. They're just getting a little bit bigger, but the infill, we would have vertical siding here with currently showing a wood stain type of thing. Either any of the colors on this and the duplex we're showing is pretty much all white with wood doors, charcoal roof. There'll be a bronze. We're assuming we're going to put some bronze windows in, bronze metal roof over that simple bay. But all these things have to get run by the Historic Commission prior to our going anywhere with them. So as a final.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions? Yes, sir.
Mark Rambacher, 205 Hartwell. When we're building the new garages, can we make sure they're wired for electric vehicles at the time?
That's a code requirement now.
Is it-
I
is
don't
it for
know
all
if Wilton
garages?
has adopted it, but in other towns, it's part of the stretch code.
Well, I guess, Joe, that would probably be good. I think it's probably a really
I would,
good idea.
I would think at the very least wire it for 220, so that if the person who buys it wants to do it, they can do it.
Yeah, I think that's.
That's probably the easiest way to do it.
Yes.
Anyone else? Continue this to, what, board?
Yeah, it's site plan, so we don't have to vote on continuing, but continue the discussion in 2 weeks on the 17th.
So and maybe at that time we'll talk a little, I don't think we need to send this out unless the board decides that. Send it out to anybody for a consultant, I think we can.
I think the main consultant would be the historic,
And they're well on their way. I think we can look at the drainage of it just as, on the 17th and hopefully be done by then, I would think, unless anybody else has any outstanding. It's just, Anna, do you have any outstanding, or do you want it to continue to the 17th and we can?
I think that it should be continued to the 17th, and in the meantime, I will forward on the remaining questions, because I know we're pressed for time.
Okay, thank you. Thank
Great,
you.
thank you very much.
What time?
Thank you.
So, let's see, we're going to do MBTA communities at 6:15, so this will probably be at 7.
Okay,
Great, thank you very much.
thank you.
Is that August 17th?
Yeah,
Yes.
August 17th, yeah, we'll meet in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Is that all right? We'll be ready for that?
Thank you very much.
Yep, thank
Good
you.
job. Looks great.
Yeah, very nice. Okay, we have a 6:50, we're a couple minutes late, but a 6:50 informal discussion, 95 Taylor Street. Sorry for cutting you off, but I'm trying to stay on point. Thank you.
Let's continue this 6:45 discussion first.
Oh, yeah, that's, yeah, we've,
No,
no, you don't need to stay. We're,
You can
the
stay. That's all right.
555 Newtown Road, where it's an open space development, Skyview Lane. We're gonna continue that until the 17th, or they wanna wait till September?
They were asked to be continued till Thursday, August 17th.
Okay.
So if you're doing 12 Robinson Road at 6, what did I just say, 7 o'clock? Do this one at 7:15, do
Sure.
Skyview at 7:15.
Okay. Sure.
Good evening, and thank you for having us this evening. My name is Mark Gallagher from Seal Harbor Development in Acton, Mass. We have 95 Taylor Street under agreement, and it is approximately a 7-acre parcel that rests on the opposite side of Bay State, if you know where Bay State is on Taylor Street. To the rear of our property is a large pond or river front area that we're working with conservation on an ANRAD. We wanted to have an informal discussion with this evening. We have two different venues. One is a standard subdivision, both which would yield 5 lots, meeting all zoning requirements with a cul-de-sac, protecting the resource to the rear of the property, and pulling the houses towards Taylor Street. I don't know if anybody has ever been out to the property or been around it, but back in the day, they mined this property for the construction of Route 2. So there's a very, very large berm that separates the developable area from the natural resources to the rear of the property. So what we've tried to do with both of our proposals would be to stay away from, as far as we could, away from the resources outside the 100-foot buffer, and to maintain as much or as little development of the property as we possibly could. So in either one of the proposals, we're developing about 30 to 40% of the overall property. Common septic system to the front of the property to stay away, low nitrite loads, and have tried to be as conservative as we can with that natural resource behind us. So the second plan that we did is using your open space bylaw. And essentially, the difference is this removes the requirement for a town road, goes with a much smaller entryway onto the property, common driveway to each of the lots or each of the units, and reduces the amount of impact on the property in general. This would reduce our road or our access down to about 300 feet with a turnaround for fire trucks that would meet their requirements, and pulls all of the houses a little bit closer together and more of a cluster.
Have you talked to the water department about, because they're right behind you,
Yeah, we
right?
know that. Yep.
And have we gotten anything from them? Have we sent it out to them?
No, I don't generally for an informal discussion.
Okay. So, any questions or? We have to kind of give them directions
Right.
or continue it and ask more questions later,
Right,
but which way we want to?
Well, I appreciate the cluster concept. I think reducing the developed area is a good idea. I actually walked it this afternoon.
Great.
I hope I didn't get any ticks.
I hope not as well.
Move away.
So I guess my question at this point is to the board as much as to you.
Sure.
Would you consider going further in that direction and reducing the number of buildings and making duplexes instead of single-family houses or something like that? I mean, just to, there's a lot of single-family houses in Littleton, and there's not much of anything else. And if we could increase the clustering, I'm just asking if that's a possibility that you'd consider.
I don't know that this zone allows duplexes, even with a special permit. As a developer, what happens is, you acquire a piece of property for X amount of dollars.
Right.
The yield out of single family is a better yield than duplexes,
Right.
unless there's an increase in the number of duplexes. We were looking to try to have the smallest impact footprint-wise as we could. We're pretty tight on the developable area. I believe we're close to 30% of the total. So when you went out there and saw the berm, we're close to probably 75 feet off that berm, which is significant because there's a lot of area behind it.
Right.
The area, this lot could be 9 acres. It stretches all the way out to the middle of the river, as they call it outside there. No, I know.
Right.
But, the question is, where's the river? And we don't want to argue about where it is because it's, well beyond our developable area and beyond our scope. So we're just, I don't think there's any argument that we've had in our discussions with the conscom about where the wetlands are because,
Right.
we're off the wetlands. But I think single family is our best option.
Sure.
And as you said, there's single family in the neighborhood already.
But to that point, I know this is just a conceptual.
It is.
But I think the concept would be to tighten it up as much as possible. And it would be, you did Wildflower Meadow, you know what,
I know tight is.
tight is, that may be too tight.
It is. I'm very familiar.
But, this is still, and of course, it depends on the size of the homes and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
But it looks like, it looks like it could be tighter, And then the question is there any talk of conveying the surplus, land to conservation or?
Whomever would like to have it.
Okay.
I'm open to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're very familiar with tight. We did Bennett Orchards.
Mhm.
The problem, that was tight. I honestly believe, having done a little bit of research adversarially, not in my own property, that with the open space, I'm not sure the duplexes are allowed.
I don't think we have, in outside of the village common area. Yeah.
Other than what you were speaking about before, yeah. I agree. But we'll try to tighten it up, Joe.
Okay.
I mean, our goal is to try to leave a small footprint. It's all gravel. That's why they took all took it all out of there.
So when I mean, I wish I'd walked it, but this, all the contours at the front of the site would be eliminated, you would excavate, it'd be essentially be
Correct.
flat.
We'd have
Yeah.
a more, in the area that we're gonna work on. The berm in the back is extremely large and extremely tall.
Okay, so this is all going up.
Correct.
It's going up
Okay.
and then down
Then down.
quite
So
steeply. It's
they
about-
excavated it to like
They did.
230.
Yeah, I mean, those are, what, 1-foot contours?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it reads hillier than it
It's about
actually
15
is.
to 18 feet up.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna
it's
say
significant.
15 or 20 feet.
Wow.
Yeah.
But
It
it's,
is.
it's very steep.
It is very steep.
Anna, do you have any questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you ask me if I do, if I have
Yes, I'm
questions?
asking if you have any questions.
Okay, I assume that you're saying yes to me.
Yes.
So I'm wondering as to whether or not the open space bylaw can even be used for this, because under the applicability, it talks about this bylaw being used for 10 acres or more, and this is only 8.5 acres. So I have a question about that foundational premise.
Okay. Well, I guess it's kind of up to us if we decide to go this route. We'd have to waive that for that.
And the second thing is, I think it will also require an Aquifer Water Resource District special permit.
We haven't even got that far yet. We're
No.
just trying to give them an idea.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I couldn't hear you.
I said we haven't even got that far yet. We're just trying to give them an idea if we like an open space as opposed to a conventional.
Well, from my perspective, obviously glad to see more housing. I wanted to bring up these particular items before the applicant goes too far down the road, because these are items that need to be dealt with. And I think that based off of just looking on the plans, and Bartlett, perhaps you can shed some light since you were there, but it really feels like the proposed 5 is too many, that perhaps the space just isn't going to be there to be able to accommodate the 5 homes and the septic that's going to be needed. What do you think after having been out there?
Well, we're still, I'll answer for Bart. We're still a little early. He's gonna have to, as we go along, show us that he can actually fit septics, septics for each one, before we go either a conventional or open space in a shared system. So we're just trying to get an idea of what the concepts would be and have another meeting or two before we decide to, which way to go. So,
All right, well, as I said, I wanted to point out some of the issues that I have on this particular property, and also wanted to point out that we have talked as a board in the past about open space that's donated to the town, that it not just be wetlands, that it be actually usable space, and so that would be something else I would want to know more about.
okay,
Thank you.
I have one other question. You were talking about a shared driveway. You have to have frontage
Yeah.
for 5 lots. You're gonna have to show us frontage, but not on a shared driveway. It's gonna have to be a subdivision road.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna ask,
I'm sorry, Mark. Your open space bylaw doesn't require a town road. Doesn't require it at all.
you have to show, you have to have.
For a
frontage.
proof plan.
Right. Well,
yeah.
no, for a regular plan, you need, but he needs frontage.
But you're gonna require frontage in general.
Frontage for each lot. You can't have it on, you can't get frontage on a driveway.
Mhm.
So we're gonna have to see something a little more substantial than a driveway. That's all I'm getting at.
Mhm.
Gonna open up, see if anybody in the audience has any questions or concerns? Not
Any
here.
questions? Is that what you asked to the?
I'm asking if you have a question, Mr. Scott. Do you have a question?
Yeah, how many lots is he providing for a single driveway?
It's the original proposal is a roadway with 5 lots.
Correct.
Okay, and now he's looking for a shared driveway?
No, I used the wrong word. It's a roadway.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought he
It was my
was
fault.
looking to have 3 houses off of one shared driveway, which is ordinarily not allowed. Is that
No,
true?
it is allowed. You have to do a shared driveway permit. We're talking about frontage, and we haven't even gotten to whether we like the
Okay,
conventional or open space, that's all.
thank you.
Okay. Does the board have any other, obviously, we need to talk to the water department about the spudding up to your property, which you would prefer, so we'll probably send you a letter asking you what, to weigh in on it. Anna makes a good point about open space has to be usable. We're not really looking for wetlands that we're gonna get anyway, so maybe we can have a better delineation of it. And have you done any testing out there to show us that you can get conventionally the 5 lots out there?
We have not completed our testing, but it's all bank gravel.
Okay.
So it's 2 minutes an inch.
Can we continue to, you want to be on the 17th?
Sure,
Okay.
sure. Would you like to see a density yield plan next? Is that what
Please.
your next step?
Please.
Okay, we'll bring that next time.
What time on the 17th?
Okay, so we did, so how long do you want to leave for, or do we just continue for Skype view?
We haven't even opened it. We're still in the,
Still waiting for that. So this, since this is an informal discussion, we don't have to set the time certain.
Okay.
If something else is continued, we'll push it a little earlier, but probably, 7:15, 7:30.
Okay, wonderful. Look forward to seeing you then.
thank you.
Okay. Thank you for this evening.
All right, thank you. 7:15, board business, minutes from the prior meeting. Has everyone looked at them? Do we have any questions or issues with them?
Nope, I did not.
Bills?
Okay, just a second, if you wouldn't mind to vote on the minutes.
Or what dates?
Just the only, there was only one date
Just
available,
June
June
8th,
8th.
that's it? Okay.
Actually, it's July 6th. I know it
Oh,
says
thank
June
you.
20th.
You're right.
July 6th. Any motion to approve the minutes as presented for July 6th?
I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, you-
Aye.
Bills?
Aye.
Thank you. I keep forgetting. You keep going. Bills?
Okay, so there are two bills from there, one, both for Innis Associates. One was the one for July, and one was one that I missed paying for work in May.
Okay.
And then, if I could tag on to the bills discussion, we have a additional services contract for Innis Associates. When the board asked for the third iteration of the scenarios for their last meeting, they put the time in on that, and that was an extra. That would be an add-on, and $3,000. And there is funding, there is still grant funding available to cover that.
Perfect.
We don't have a bill for it though yet.
Don't have a bill for it yet, it just hoping for your authorization to go ahead and sign that change order.
Are there any problems or questions with it? Andy, do you have any issue with that?
So if it was additional on top of their stated scope of work, then yes, I think it's appropriate. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Board members have any updates? Lisa, do you have anything?
No, just that the Master Plan Implementation Committee, we posted the progress report on the town website, so you can actually go to the homepage and link to a progress report. So hopefully people will take a look at it and see how much progress we really have made in achieving what the town voted on.
Bartlett, anything?
I've just heard that there's people in Park and Rec that are wanting to convert open space to playgrounds and playing fields, and I just thought that we should be aware of that.
Okay, are they any site-specific, or are they just starting to?
No, just in general, that open space needs to be used as playgrounds and playing fields.
Okay. Well, we obviously have to address the issue of losing the tennis courts that
Right.
the Shattuck Street's gonna involve. And people now want pickleball courts too. Okay.
Mr. Chick, I can barely hear you. Would you mind just speaking up a little, please?
Me?
Yes, you, sir.
Okay. All right, I'll speak louder.
Thank you.
I think at the last meeting, I mentioned that I did speak with someone at Northern Bank who explained what the process was there. I did get a response from the development consultant for Hager Homestead, but we were unable to talk, and I haven't heard since.
Okay. Anna, do you have anything to share?
No updates, thank you.
Thank you. The only thing I have is the Affordable Housing Trust is moving, as we all know, moving forward with the procurement of the, or taking over of the Durkee house.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the only hangup is where the well is. I think we're pretty close to that. And I think that's about it.
I want to add one thing. The CPC committee is, well, we just found out recently that the state will not fund the CPC funds this year, as I understand, in the budget. And the town uses these funds, people want things, and I think they would like this, to consider raising the surcharge to 2% and to be more aggressive in the, what's the term?
Blended?
The blended funds, which has maybe a little bit gone by the wayside, and anyway, so that's what that committee is considering.
All right, so it looks like we've talked about Northern Bank and Hager Homestead for that.
Yeah.
So the only other one is the MBTA Communities, multifamily zoning work. We're getting ready for a presentation on the 17th, correct?
August 17th. I've asked, Emily feels that she can have draft zoning to us prior to that meeting.
Okay, and we've reached, the owners of the property have reached out and asked us if they could speak directly, which we gave them at the last meeting, to speak directly with Innes about the potential of subdividing that and the 20 acres of open space. Maren, you'll obviously stay in the loop on that, and we'll have that information there. I'm assuming there's already spoken, but maybe not. Maybe they haven't.
So
But
we're still trying to schedule it for next week.
oh, okay. All right. So that's where we're at with the MBTA multifamily zoning work, and we'll have something a little more definitive on the 17th. Anything else? We're good with all of those. Dean Lane. We need to speak about Dean Lane.
Yep. So after the last discussion, Green International, Mike Mancuso, the construction inspector that's been working with us on that project and several others, he did a very thorough site visit, and he did a site memo that includes some issues, both in the area that the resident identified. We did walk all of Dean Lane. He did walk all of the main part of the subdivision, and we did look at all of the detention basins. We had a good discussion this afternoon, or I had a good discussion this afternoon with him to understand which issues were significant and which were just natural wear and tear. Overall, the detention basins are working quite well, especially given all of the rain that's happened over the last couple weeks and months. There are photos with concerns at the intersection of Dean Lane and the Field Lane cul-de-sac. There's evidence of some ponding. Residents expressed concern that in the wintertime that could become an icing issue. That means that the driveway cut, there is a missing berm along the unbuilt lot on Dean Lane. There is some water that sheds from that lot onto that street. It has brought some debris with it. The idea, we believe that the idea was that's where a future driveway would go, but it's a little bit of an unresolved issue at this point. The main point where drainage is a concern is over on one of the cul-de-sacs in the main part of the subdivision, and it looks like part of the area probably has dropped in elevation a little bit, and probably more than you would expect in a usual subdivision situation. So those were the main points that he wanted to to highlight.
All right, so have we gotten an estimate as to what the repairs would be for where Dean Lane connects with,
No, we didn't, I didn't ask for any cost estimates for repairs.
well, we need something because we've agreed to release the bond money, but, in order to do that, we need to know what it's gonna cost to fix it.
Okay, I'm looking for direction from the board. Is that the site you want me to ask about?
The what?
Is that the portion of the
Well,
report
as I
you want me to
understand
ask
it,
about?
the other site has been accepted or has it been, I mean, it's.
Yeah, Town Way.
It's out of the process now, so the town is,
Yeah, the town owns
yeah.
the subdivision roadway.
But the
now,
Dean Lane
correct?
is not, so that's what we, or I guess is there some, what is the geographic consideration of that? Because there was disagreement about whether it was part of Dean Lane or part of the street.
It seems to be the intersection between Dean Lane, the two ends, the circle of Dean Lane, where that comes into Field Lane cul-de-sac. So Field Lane cul-de-sac is technically part of the subdivision roadway, and Dean Lane is the shared residential
So
driveway. the private.
currently, as per our discussion of a couple of weeks ago, we have $5,000 set aside to make sure that there were no issues there, which now we've found there is an issue. We also have, do you have the draft agreement? Have you spoken to town council about a draft agreement to release the $40,000 bond?
What I did was went back and to the videotape of your vote and drafted paperwork on what the vote was. And it's ready for your signature if the board is ready to move ahead with that release.
Okay, so how do you feel about releasing the $40,000 bond as per what we discussed, that we have $5,000 being held? Do you think that's enough, and do we want to do that and live up and release the $40,000?
I think there's an identified problem, and I think it's worth our while to find out what it would cost to fix it. And I think that repair would be more than $5,000 is a reasonable guess, and that we should maybe not release that $40,000
Until we find out.
until we get an estimate and know what we're up against.
What do you think, Jeff?
I don't know what I mean, I haven't seen the problem, I don't know what it costs, so let's get some kind of ballpark.
Yeah, we need a cost estimate.
Okay, Anna?
Yes, I think we need the cost estimate. I don't think we should be releasing any more funds. Thank you.
Can we get it, how fast do you think?
I'll ask tomorrow morning and we'll let you know.
Okay, because I would like to resolve this as quickly as possible, because we did promise that we would try to. So if we can get it and it's less, all right, so let's ask the question then. If the estimate comes out less than the $5,000 that we hold, will we vote to, can we release the money?
Yes, I mean, that's my
Do
feeling.
you feel?
If the estimate comes in $5,000 or less, yes, we can release it.
Okay, so good, so we will authorize you to release it if the estimate is less than $5,000.
Thank you.
Okay? All right, that's that. Moving on, we have,
Excuse me. Could we say one thing about the
No.
international report?
Nope.
Okay, that's fair.
it's up to us, the money's sitting, we've got the money.
You voted to release the money.
You told us there was no problems with it.
There is no problems, and I don't believe it.
That's why I'm not having a discussion about it. It's up to us to decide whether or not to release it. We just heard the board unanimously vote not to release until we have an estimate of what the repairs
So
were.
now you have $45,000.
We are trying to give you the $40,000 back. I'm not.
You said you would, if you dropped off 5,000.
And you said there were no problems with the road. Now
There
it's
is.
coming.
That road was accepted.
You know what? I don't want to
and
discuss
inspected
it.
Mark, I'm not yelling, I'm just making
we're
a
not here
comment.
to argue
This
about
is public comment.
I'm trying to get you the money. If we get
Mark,
an
this is
estimate
I want to make a statement, please.
no, we have
This
voted.
is public comment.
No, this is not public comment. This is board
So
business.
public comment is in a few minutes?
In a few minutes.
Then I'll make my statement.
Thank you. The board has decided that if the estimate comes
I'll
in
wait
less
for the public comment.
than $5,000, then we'll release the $40,000 bond, just like we agreed to do at the meeting a couple of weeks ago. If it's more than that to fix the road, then we're not going to, because we've been told that there was nothing wrong with the road, and we've had a consultant go out there and find there
Wait
is
for the
something.
public comment.
Okay,
Let him finish.
okay. Anything else?
Let's wait until the comment.
Okay, so now we have public input. This is the deal. We're only gonna hold 10 minutes of public input. You're allowed 2 minutes to speak. You can say your piece, get acknowledged by the board, and if you have something to say, you have 2 minutes, up to 2 minutes. Okay. Does anybody have any public input they want to speak?
I do.
Name,
is
please, for Maren.
Janet Field. Is there opportunity that we could take that 2 minutes to look at the Green International report? Has anybody looked at it?
No, we're not gonna, this is your input to us. We're not giving input to you.
Okay, my input is that if you look at the issues that Green International put on this report, if somebody, could look at it, they are issues that are on the road that's been accepted by the town, first of all, 100% on the road, a roadway that I don't believe that field development should be responsible for. And number two, they're issues that could have been caused in the 3 years that the town has owned the road. This isn't even wear and tear stuff. There's a little bit of settling next to the, I'm sorry, not settling, a piece of granite curbing has shrunk about 1.5 inches. I mean, I don't think that's, I just wish that you would take the time to look at this and then maybe
Tell
you
them
could
that the
have
loader out there plowing.
a little bit of, a perspective on, it's not a build issue. Neither one of them are build issues. And as far as the slope goes and the question about puddling, the Green International guy brought a level and checked the slope of the road. Just because this much dirt shows on this photograph, that's a complaint that there's gonna be ice and puddling in the future. Just,
On a 2% slope.
he checked the slope was correct. So it's just, I guess one person's definition of an issue is maybe not the same as someone else's definition of an issue, so. All right.
Thank you.
So I don't know if we, do you suggest that we, who would go, who's our next person to look at it?
Nobody's,
Well, how would you get an estimate? Who would give you an estimate?
I'll reach out to both Green and to DPW.
Okay, we did too, so we can talk and just, see.
we'd
what-
like to resolve this as quick as possible.
Okay, fair enough. Do it.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, sir, in the back. Name, please, for Maren.
Good evening, Brian Burke, 31 Ernie's Drive is my residence, but 325 Great Road is my business. And I have some concern about what I'm hearing about the sewer, Mr. Chairman. It looks as though, and this was a concern that I raised when I went to one of the informational meetings about the capacity of the sewer being obsolete before it was even built. It was some concern because I had great hopes about this sewer system and its impact would have done for the downtown district as I see it, and where my business is located, and an opportunity. I have approximately a half acre of land there, and I looked at how things are in communities like Salem downtown and how things were able to be developed with the intent that I believe the board had with the downtown business area with this development and the sewer, is to expand on what is there and make it more of a living area and a business area and something that is hopefully, creates some harmony and some foot traffic and between the businesses and the residents and things like that. And my concern right now is that I see that it is obsolete already. And I see that the 550 King Street project wants, they're getting 62%. They're looking for another 70,000 gallons capacity a day when we have we're already pretty much obsolete. And it leaves people like me who have this nice prime piece of property right in the center of town to keep it and leave it the way it is, because I don't have any plans right now. I can't request any expansion of the REUs or anything like that, because I just got notice last week that I have to have my request in tomorrow. And I'm like, how am I gonna get the designs, or how am I gonna get everything approved? This thing is going way too fast, especially when I look at something that's already obsolete. And it's a concern to me. And I grew up in South Boston in a housing project, and they had the same population as the town of Littleton when I moved in here 25 years ago. And it was only on 25 acres of land. And we had that, and what I see with this project that's going on at 550 King Street, Mr. Chairman, I see it being almost like, for me, a simple way to put it is, you're putting a housing project there, and it's gonna take all the capacity of the sewer, or 62% of it, but that's gonna be a business district with residences. And what those residences are, is really a business. It's rental property. And that company that's paying 62% of the cost for that sewer system is going to generate a huge profit year in and year out. And me being a little resident of Littleton, with my little spot, I'm stuck.
Well, 2 minutes. Just to
You
follow.
can't
up.
limit his time. He
2
can have mine.
minutes.
I want to speak next. He can have my 2 minutes.
There's
It
a lot of
doesn't
us,
work
Brian,
that
that have the
way.
same issue.
It doesn't work.
Let him
that way.
finish, please.
He's,
I question why you're bringing this to the planning board. We have a selectman here.
we have a meeting scheduled with the selectmen, with the water and sewer people for September. That is the time this should be addressed, and that's why we've already scheduled it.
That's too late, Mark. Come on.
Yeah,
It's just,
I'm looking
You
at
only
it.
have one day to have their
It's not
numbers.
in our,
And
it's
the
not
sewer
in our,
department put it on the planning board's approvals to move forward. If the planning board hasn't approved the plan, we can't do, so it does, this is why this is our
It's all
first.
approved, well, there's nothing we can vote on, everything is
But us
approved.
given 10 days' notice to come up with approved plans, that's why we're here. They sent us to the planning board.
So,
Nothing we-
also,
But
it's
I'm-
all done by water usages over the last 5-year average. How much water has IBM used over the last 5 years?
Nothing. Well, they get nothing then.
The last 5 years.
Why do
been
the
COVID.
local residents, I get one REU, 330 gallons on my site that has a two-bedroom, single detached, a real estate office, attorney's office, accounting office, and 3 therapists. And I get a 330 gallon capacity into the system.
It's going to be discussed at the selectmen's meeting on September 10th. Or
It's gonna
September
end up in a
11th.
class action suit.
We're gonna-
It's-
It has nothing to do with the planning board, we approved the plans and that was it, that's all we've
So you
done.
weren't foresightful, were you?
What?
Excuse me, the.
You were not foresightful. You were
The-
looking for somebody else's interest and not the residents of
The
town.
sewer commission told us what their capacity, what the design of it,
Then
we
why
had
does he
nothing to
get
do.
62% and the town gets stiff?
Because he
People lived
paid,
there for 6 generations.
he's paid 27 million for
I don't
it.
care what he paid.
No, you know what, I'm
The
done.
residents of the town come
I'm not having
first.
a debate about it, you can bring it up at the
No, we
selectmen's.
can have a
meeting.
debate.
No, we're not, we're
According to
done,
1964,
we're
Sullivan
done.
versus New York Times says we can have this debate.
We're not.
And you can't limit it to me. The Supreme Court has already
We're
said
done,
so.
we're all done, okay?
No, you're all done.
We had a
Let
meeting.
Brian finish, please.
He has my 2 minutes.
I have not spoken to anybody here about what's going on. I was told that there was a meeting, that there was an opportunity to express something. And I just wanted to express something to the planning board, because I think the planning board kind of plans what the character's going to be of the town by their ability to approve plans and what you may think the town should be. And I understand that you may have a narrow role in this whole thing, but, you know, and I'm, to be honest with you, I don't do this type of work in law, so I'm just a citizen of the town.
I appreciate that, but understand, the planning board approved a subdivision. We didn't approve a septic permit. We
Right.
didn't approve the design. We didn't approve the capacity. We did none of that. That's good. If they don't have enough, they have to come back and redesign it. It has nothing to do with that. We heard that everybody was concerned. I asked Myron to schedule a meeting with the selectmen, which they are doing with the Water and Sewer Commission, which is scheduled for sometime in September. There's nothing else we can do. We're not approving anything in front of you. Everything's already been approved.
No, I
The
understand
time to
that.
talk about it is in front of the selectmen who have the ability.
Well,
And the select board.
if I could just express to you my final point,
Fine.
and I'll get to that. The planning board has approved these plans, no doubt. I mean, because now they have the capacity, they have to go to the water commission. I understand that, and I respect that. I understand that. But I'm looking at the loss, in my view, of the character of this town. And it looks like where they used to use the expression when they were putting the car dealership in, you're trying to put a 12-inch foot inside a 6-inch shoe. And when you have that type of, I know that the rules allow, the zoning rules allow for dense development. I don't think it was really the intent to have one person take 62% of the capacity and let everybody else suffer from it. And the reason why I say suffer from it is, I'm not gonna be able to do anything with my property, at least me right now, right? But I was hoping in 2 years, when things settle down, that I could come with something to do. And I'm being told now that the sewer system is obsolete. And I think it's kind of the planning board's role to some degree to protect me and to protect the other people in the area. Because when you allow this dense population to go, and like I said, they may be residential units in the hundreds, but what it really is, it's a business. It's not residents. Because the people that are going to profit from it are that one corporation to the 62% value of the sewer, which means, for me, I get to pay $40,000 for each unit, which I think I'm going to be getting 2 because I've done some research. So I get 30 years to pay $80,000, but I can't develop my property. And that, to me, was not the intent. And it shouldn't have been the intent of anybody to do that. It needs to be spread. It needs to be fair. And I'm like, whoa. I grew up in South Boston where politics is pretty rough. And I feel that a lot of people in this community threw me a shit curveball. And it sucks. I'll tell you that right now.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
I definitely understand why you're upset. Because I agree that the master plan for Littleton does talk about the need to develop or reinvigorate downtown Littleton.
Yes.
So I agree, I think you have very valid concerns. I, just as a resident, forget planning board, I agree with what you're saying, and I really hope you will go in September, because I think the select board needs to hear this, and the water department needs to hear this. And I don't know what the answer is, because we do have a letter from the water department, and it doesn't say when they think they'll be able to add any additional capacity. So, yeah, it does, it leaves the common area kind of,
High and dry.
yeah, high and dry.
It
So,
leaves us
you
high
know,
and dry.
I understand what you're saying.
I
100%.
understand too, because I live right around the
Yeah.
corner from you, and I cannot connect, even though it will be literally 40 feet away from me at Northern Bank, and it's frustrating. However, I'm sort of interested what, you know, the things you're bringing up, because you're right. It is going to thwart the lack of the sewer capacity is going to thwart further the way we were hoping the common would on properties like yours develop. However, we were not a party to any of these negotiations.
Can I ask a question? So it could take Lapoli like 15
10
years,
years,
10
yes.
years, but meanwhile, he's got 62% of the sewer
That's a
tied
good
up,
point. Yeah.
right? Just, you know,
And
I think you've got very valid
With
concerns.
comments like yours and the people here,
Mm-hmm.
the communication to the water and sewers, we need more capacity, which, as I understand it, there's some process to work to maybe identify some more areas for these vehicles.
Yeah, but if Lapoli doesn't need any, you know,
Well,
for another 5 years or 10 years, then maybe you give more to the common, but then again, who pays for it? So these are all things, I think you have very, very valid
And
concerns.
I appreciate where you're coming from with all of this. And like I said, I don't do this, I don't know if this is my forum, the appropriate forum, but it is some frustration that I feel because I spent a whole bunch of money on the sign I have out front of my office. I did it with one purpose. I thought it fit the town. I could have gone, you know, cheap metal, tin, something else, get it done. But I spent thousands of dollars on a custom-made sign because I wanted to be right in the center of town and have character. And I can't do that now with any development that I see. And I don't think it was the intent of the town to put what I have to call as a housing project in the center of town. I don't think that represents the character. I don't think it represents what we want to be as a community. Not that I'm against, you know, I'm a product of a public housing development, believe me, but I'm not against anything like that. I just don't think it's something that should be that big in this community right now.
That ship has sailed.
But I know it has.
You know what I mean? So
I know it has sailed.
So
but-
that's why in September,
Yeah.
all of these issues should be addressed, because this is the first we're hearing that they don't, that the water
Yeah.
and sewer doesn't have enough capacity.
Right.
We've never heard that.
We had this letter
Yeah.
Yeah, we got this
stated-
today.
I know. I gotta tell you though, I went to the police station where they had some of the informational meetings and stuff, and I said, this is an obsolete system, it's already filled to capacity, what's gonna happen to the people? And it was like, well, you might, right, and next question, please. Something not as bad as that, but it was brushed over and went on to some other, you know, trigger comment that got everybody's attention.
So the other issue that I think we'll all come up against is that I'm not even sure the selectmen have much control over.
Select board.
Select board. I mean, there was a select person some years ago who spent the town's money for years and years and years to try to establish who actually owned our municipal services. And it was not successful for the town, actually. So it may be that the only recourse you have is to work to elect sewer and water commissioners that are sympathetic to your point of view. I know I will consider doing that, but I don't even, Mark, you can maybe speak to this, but I don't think the select board has, you know, they can't by fiat say you need to do this.
Well, I agree. I think that the ship is sailed. From just a casual view of this whole thing, is the ship is sailed. I don't know if there's any role for you. I don't know if you can create a role for you and inject yourself into this as the planning board to express that, you know, this is not, I don't know if it is or not. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but to me, it's not the character, and I don't think it was the intent that we wanted. So if you feel as strongly as I do about something like that, maybe it's time to do that.
So our input into this is going to be, we've approved form-based code, and we want to see the revitalization of the common. The reason we're asking for the meeting with the selectmen and the water and sewer is because our hands will be tied as well, because you're going to come in and ask us to redevelop your property, and we're not going to be able to do it. So what good is the planning board? That is why we've scheduled the meeting. And we can't do anything right now, but we have started the ball rolling by asking to have the meeting with everyone else and what is going to be the resolution of it, because that's exactly what's going to come before us. As soon as the first split that comes before us, and we don't have any capacity, so what are we approving another set of plans? So we get that.
Right, and I appreciate that, because in my view of this, in my research, was like, I could come here with plans that fit all of the, check all the boxes off for the new bylaws and everything, and you could approve it, and then I have to go somewhere else that doesn't have the capacity, and I've wasted time, energy, and money only to be stalled. And the thing is that kind of irks me to no end is, I had hoped that, someday I could do something that would, again, fit the character, because I'm right up where CVS is, I'm right there in the common and everything. And I was hoping to do something that, like, when someone was driving by, or if they were walking around, which is the intent that we hope to do with sidewalks and everything else, that they would walk by my property and see something that says, that fits the town of Littleton. That represents its history. That represents everything that we wanted in our community. And right now, I don't think any of us in that area are gonna have that ability.
So when's the meeting in September?
So
What
we
day?
haven't scheduled.
Oh,
yet.
it hasn't, okay, so
We've
pay
asked for
it,
a
yeah.
meeting a
Okay.
joint meeting in September. It's up to the water department to decide when they can make it, but that is what we scheduled. And that, the reason we have is exactly what you
Yeah.
said. It
Well, you know
doesn't-
where I am, and Maren has been great. She knows how to get a hold of me.
We will make sure it's out there,
Yeah.
what the date is.
Well, again, I wish I wasn't so far behind the 8 ball, like I say, with the whole thing, but I thought that, there are people that you hope would kind of be selfish for the residents and stuff like that, so I did have one thought that might be something, is any additional capacity that is recognized as something that could be distributed later on might be designated for just the people in the area that own the property or small properties, so that we can get at least some of the type of development that we were hoping to get.
Well, I think-
That's thinking out loud.
And what we'll be talking about when we go before them is the fact that the Napoli company plan is probably 8 or 10-year plan. What's gonna happen to the capacity there? Can we make sure that we can dole it out now, knowing there's gonna be a future? That's the question we're gonna
Right.
ask them when we come before them.
And I will just say that I dealing with, I've been in the Big Dig, the tunnel, I've been 450 feet down, 6 miles out under the ocean. And that system, when it was being built, they were hoping would have added capacity, and it has a little. And if, like, the city of Boston wants to develop all of these high-rises with condos and homes and things like that, they're not gonna be able to do that, so they're gonna have all these empty high-rises unless they can be creative. So we need to be creative too when we approach the whole problem.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you all. And like I said, we'll find out what the date is in September with the select board in the water. Oh, really quick?
I figured we're all here, right?
Okay.
Nick Lawler, General Manager of Littleton Electric Light and Water Department. There's a few things I just want to correct and maybe point out. And I've talked to most of you individuals over the last probably 2 years with this project. And it's a phased project. This is phase 1. We've been saying that for, I don't know, since probably 3 years ago. We have to do a phase. It has to be economical. Without the Poli companies and allocating some capacity to him, it was $208,000 in REU. That's a whole different problem. So we had to make it economical. We worked very closely with the planning department, with the select board, had a working group meeting. The Poli companies asked for 275,000 gallons, they got 150. So they didn't give everything they wanted either. And I would strongly encourage all elected boards to make sure they listen to your concerns, and as we find more capacity, take that into account. The water commissioners have been listening, very closely to this, and they want to take care of the common. They believe in the master plan. To elect new ones, I don't understand that comment. I think it's the one board that truly listens to the needs of the community. So we'll continue to look for capacity. The discharge permit for the high school tested out to be about 300,000 gallons per day. The DEP is a very conservative group. They cut it down to 243,000 gallons per day. It's a 3-year permit. We feel with testing that we can increase that capacity to 300,000 gallons pretty easily without acquiring new land. I would advocate that that's used in the current common district. I think that's what the extra gallons should be. I don't think it's not a big lift to accommodate the existing buildings there. I think it wouldn't take much capacity to accomplish what everybody wants to accomplish. But we did need a partnership with the large user to make it economical. We really can't forget that. I think for 20 years we've been trying to move this project forward. It never made sense from an economical standpoint. Thankful for the select board members and the commissioners that are part of that group. Staff, there's a lot of town staff involved, and we're very hopeful that we can accomplish all the goals of the master plan tried to accomplish.
What about the phasing issue of it, the fact that the Lapolis aren't gonna need it right away? Will
Yeah,
that-
we've already committed that, so if we go over the permit allotment of the 243, there's serious repercussions, financial repercussions from the town. So we can't control the Poli's construction schedule. He could tell you 10 years, but if whatever reason, times are good, he does it in 3 years, and all of a sudden we go over that 243,000 gallons, you have a very similar situation to what Sand Park had at the point, which we don't want to put our community in. We believe within the short term, I think most of the plans for the common, people that we're talking to are talking 3 to 5 years out. And I think within 3 to 5 years, we can hopefully find more capacity to accommodate them.
Where are you gonna find it?
Well,
I don't understand.
Wait, this is not supposed to be a debate.
Well, he's up there
But I can
making
answer that. That's
a
what-
statement for the town.
Yeah, right at the high school, Peter.
Pardon?
Right at the high school. The report, the Weston and Sampson study that was done maybe 5, 6 years ago when Select Board had the sewer system, it showed that the ground was good for 300,000 gallons per day.
Okay.
DEP wanted more flow, real data. That was the theoretical model, right? So DEP is conservative. They want to see real flows. So we believe right at the high school we have more flow. It showed breakout in the back end of the highway department property. So we control the land where the breakout was. So that's easy. So if we got to bring fill, we can bring fill and increase.
Okay, what I'm confused about is that, 8 or 10 years ago, when he brought the sewer whole idea downtown to the townspeople, and we went with X amount of money, it's $18 million, I thought it was, 10 years ago? $18 million, and the end user was the person responsible for paying for this sewage downtown. You said 90% of the people, of the residents that were capable of tying into town sewer had signed up. I asked how many is 90%. Couldn't answer me for a couple of days. Finally, they said 38. So there's 38 businesses that are part of 90% that can tie into town sewer. Is that a close number? If we just leave Lapoli out of it, and you take all the residents and the businesses in the downtown area, is 38 a fair number to tie into the septic system between residences and businesses? How many people are 90%?
In the village district.
In the village district?
Yeah, there's about 200 connections.
200? All right, so I got the wrong number, but they told me 38. So 200 connections. At $18 million, how are those 200 people, the end users, going to pay for that septic system?
Well, it's only $18 million. It's 47.
Pardon?
It's $47 million.
It is now, but when you first showed it to us, it was $18 million.
I'm gonna stop right now. This is not, we didn't schedule time for debate. This
Oh, we
is
scheduled
public
time to have
input.
a conversation about the problems
I'm done.
that the town has done.
Do you have an idea
So-
when you're gonna try to meet with the selectmen? No, I'm done. This is public input from the planning
That's
board.
not.
You're not done. You don't get to tell the
Yes, I
do.
town what it can do.
That's between the 3 chairs, Mark.
We're
Sorry.
open to whenever you wanna have it, and
Yep.
the sooner that we can have this discussion, obviously, the better off we're gonna be.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yep. All right, thanks.
thank you. Okay, we have 7:45. Continue public hearing, preliminary subdivision.
It's a farce.
It's not a hearing, just a.
How many gallons does IBM use right now?
Zero.
Zero. So is that what they get in the
Thank
future?
you.
Thank you.
So we've got, who's here for?
Your grandfather's rolling over in his grave.
Neither Chris nor.
This is Peter Scott saying you should be ashamed of yourself.
Where are, oh, okay.
So,
It's not, it's only 10 minutes of public input.
We were fine.
Yeah,
We were fine.
okay. Go ahead. Go.
So Rick and Chris both send their apologies for having other appointments this evening.
Yep. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Matt Perry. I'm an engineer with TEC here on behalf of our client, Lapoli Companies. Here seeking approval for our preliminary subdivision plan for the project at 550 King Street. As I recall, last time we spoke with you guys 2 weeks ago, my colleague Rick Plnbrd answered a lot of your questions, comments, and concerns regarding the preliminary subdivision. If you guys have any new questions, I can do my best to answer those. And it's my knowledge that we received some town department comments. I had the chance to review those. A lot of those pertain to items that may get handled in the definitive process or further design phases. But like I said, again, if there's any questions regarding the preliminary subdivision plan, I'll do my best to answer those. And thank you for your time and consideration.
As Rick put it a couple of weeks ago, just to recap, this is purely being done for the ability for financing and things like that. It doesn't change what's been approved out there. It's just changing the potential to have different lots under bank for the banking industry. So, do we have any continued questions?
Not
Are
on
we ready to vote on
Not
this?
on plan subdivision, no.
No?
I have nothing.
I have nothing. Anna, do you have any questions or concerns?
I have a quick question. So on the plan, it has a roadway profile. Could you just explain that a little bit? That's something I meant to ask last time, and so I just want to know what it means.
Sure.
Because I haven't seen that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the profile, it basically measures the grade of the roadway as you're, so they lay out a road in terms of stations. They usually lay out every 50 feet. There's a station, and they'll measure between those stations the grade of the roadway. So this pattern you can see on the profile basically is just a measure of the various slopes of the roadway.
But it's important to note that the scales are different.
Correct.
Horizontal,
Yes.
vertical.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions?
Well, this is a question more for you, Mr. Chair, and that is, under the bylaw, we are supposed to ask for, or at least discuss, performance guarantees. So does that come into the definitive plan? When do we have those discussions?
Definitive. Everything's going to be done in the definitive. This is purely creating lot lines.
Okay,
Right.
that's what I need to know.
Right, because at the definitive stage, and/or the site plan stage, you do have the hard engineering design, and so you can do the calculations of the costs and.
Okay, great, thank you.
This is basically just lot lines, interior lot lines. So if nobody else has any questions, I'll enter in a motion to approve the subdivision plan as presented, knowing full well that any idea when you think you're going to be coming back before us in the definitive?
I don't have a date off the top of my head.
That's a Rick decision, not a yours
Yeah,
decision.
I'm sure we'll be working on it soon, though. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Make a motion to approve the,
Second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Well, I'll take a roll call. Bartlett?
aye.
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 I should say your names. Anna?
Aye.
I forget your name. And I'm an aye. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
We're just about back on
right.
schedule. How's that? We have an 8 o'clock public hearing, 245 Taylor Street, adult use marijuana established in Water Resource District special permit, Sanctuary Medical.
That's the board notice.
Oh, do I have to read this?
Sorry.
Yes.
You want me to read it? The Town of Littleton Planning Board will hold a consolidated public hearing on Thursday, August 3rd, 2023, at 8 p.m. in room 103 of the town offices at 37 Shattuck Street to consider applications for special permits pursuant to MGL Chapter 40A and the Code of the Town of Littleton zoning.
I was going to do architects on one.
The application is for adult use marijuana establishment special permits and water resource district special permit under sections 173-61 through 173-64 and 173-195 through 173-203 of the Code of the Town of Littleton zoning. property location 234 Taylor Street, Assessors Map R9, Parcel 34. Applicant Sanctuary Medicinals. The applicant is seeking to renew an adult-use marijuana establishment special permit as a marijuana cultivator and marijuana product manufacturer, and amend Water Resource District special permits to allow continuation of current marijuana cultivation and processing and a new building addition. Application and plans can be viewed at the Planning Board and the Town Clerk's office during their business hours or at the town website, littletonma.org. Any person interested or wishing to be heard on the proposed plan should appear at the time and place designated or provide comment to m2hill@littletonmass.org or P.O. Box 1305 Littleton 01460 by August 1st if possible.
Good job.
Thank you. So can we do a brief overview of it? Because obviously there's going to be a lot of issues that we're going to be addressing on this, and consultants and stuff like that. So if you give us a
I'll give you the
Reader's
high
Digest,
level.
Reader's Digest version.
Yep, and I'm not sure if I got updated building plans from the architect today. Do you want me to just pass them out to board members, or just give them tomorrow and for the next meeting?
I'll take one.
All right, mine's a good one. Not that we're really going to get
Anything
into
to disregard,
I
Mark.
don't think we're really going to get into the brass tacks of it.
Yes, I'll give you the big overview.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you want me to have them facing you, or so the audience can see as well?
I think so the audience can see.
Mr. Chair, I would like to voice my displeasure at the fact that plans are being submitted at the last minute, and certainly I am not able to participate. So
I second that motion.
I apologize for that, Mr. Chairman. We did submit some architectural plans, and the architect's been tweaking the interior of the building, so the changes were to the interior of the building, reorienting some, so I apologize for that.
Okay, well, we're not really addressing the interior of the building right now. We're addressing the idea of it, what's going on. That's what the point I was trying to make.
Okay. I will, as the board has their drawings, I will turn this for the audience to see. I can do it without dropping everything. There we go. Okay. Any preference where I put it? Okay. Okay, and I apologize to board members if you can't see it. Good evening. Do you want me to the podium?
Sure, please.
Okay. My name is Sue Carter from Places Associates. I'm the project engineer for Sanctuary Medicinals. With me is Nick Satmary from Sanctuary, and we also have Mike Lannon, who is our environmental specialist who specializes in odor control, because we know that is a big concern by many of the neighbors as well as board members. So we're here for a renewal of the marijuana establishment special permit. It was originally granted in 2018, so the 5 years is up this December, and in accordance with the requirements, we have filed with the board more than 90 days in advance. This proposal, the proposal is to add a approximately 14,300 square foot addition to the building. Now, this addition is solely for the packaging portion of the product. There will be no additional grow rooms. The volume of marijuana grown on the site will not increase, and the number of employees will not change. So the architectural drawing, things have moved around a little bit. It shows that it's all processing in that addition. And the plans I gave you tonight also show some of the elevations. So this addition, if you go out on the site today, there's a lot of storage trailers outside. So this is so that they can put all of the packaging materials as well as the packaging machines into the addition, and that'll free up space inside the building so they have more efficiency within the building.
as I said, so the building expansion, right now, there's about 90 employees. Last fall, we had an issue with the Board of Health. The septic system was failing, and they replaced the septic system with a maximum number that they could get was 110 employees, and that kept us under the threshold for a water resource special permit. The reason why they did that was so that they could get it done quickly and not have to go through all of the process that's required for advertising and for the board and then appeal periods, things like that. So 110 is the maximum employees on the site. Currently, there's 44 marked spaces on the site. As you go by, you'll see that there's more cars than 44. With our reconfiguration and we're expanding the parking lot in one area to make it wider, taking out excess pavement in another location, that we will have 67 spaces. The key thing with that is there is a lease agreement with the abutter. So if you look on the site plan over there, it would be to the north of the site, which is at the top of the sheet. They have an agreement for 30 parking spaces with your neighbor, and there's a pathway that goes through the woods that the employees use to get to the site. So it's not the typical site plan that the board is used to. Lighting is at a minimal. They have infrared cameras around the building for security. There's not the typical landscaping that you see because of security reasons. And if you look at the plan, you see a lot of pale gray. A lot of those are the concrete pads for the extensive HVAC units, the air handlers, the condensers. It's such a unique site. It's not your typical. So our building coverage will change from 17, our building coverage will be 17.7%. With the addition, it's currently around 12. And our impervious area, which would be buildings, concrete pads, parking lot, will increase to 33%. It's currently at, I believe, I didn't write it down on this one. It's currently roughly 27%. So what we have done is we've created a recharge area to take all the roof recharge, all the roof runoff from the new addition and put it into a recharge area using drainage chambers. And that's, if you look at the new building is on the right and it's square. And there's a green, pale green above it between that and the property line, and that's where the roof recharge is going. We've given you the typical list for the hazardous or toxic materials within the building. Those are pretty specific to the use. The ethanol, isopropyl alcohol, butane, propane, things that are used to extract the cannabinoids. I'm tired tonight, sorry. From the plant material. And other than that, there are not a lot of changes within the building other than to move some of the equipment out into the addition. Obviously, one of the concerns we know that the board has had, I've had voiced to me from Myron and Board of Health has, Sanctuary met with the Board of Health last week to discuss the odor problem and to go over in detail all the steps that they have made and are in the process of making, and will include in this new addition to help address the odor issue that is, I think, the biggest complaint probably from most of the neighbors. And we can go into that in more detail if you'd like. I know, Mark, you wanted to keep it brief, so I can go into more detail or answer questions however that you would like.
You brought your consultant for odor, right? Could
Yep.
we have a brief discussion with him, or a brief, can you explain the technology that's going to be involved?
Okay.
And the reason I ask that is because we're going to obviously send this out to a consultant, so we want to just know where to start.
And we knew that was a concern right up front, so he has been prepared to come tonight and speak to you on that.
Thank you. Because like you said, site plan is, there's not a lot to the site plan.
It's not your typical commercial site plan because it's so limited and the actual impact on so many of the items is negligible.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mike Landon, president of Tech Environmental.
We're an air quality consulting firm, been around since 1984.
I think you need to probably put.
We're based in Waltham, Massachusetts. Can you hear me now? Great.
So, yeah.
We're based in Waltham, Massachusetts. We have another office in Belfast, Maine. I review a lot of these for cities and towns. You talk about sending it out to the third party.
Can you not hear him?
Can't hear.
Yeah, we can't hear him.
Really can't hear him.
Yeah, you gotta probably push it up and speak a little louder.
All right, I'm going to take it out then.
Fine.
Is that good? Is that better?
Can you hear them?
Yell.
Okay. Or you just turn it up. You don't have to yell. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, so I understand you said you're going to send it out for a third-party review. I do third-party reviews for cities and towns on these systems all the time. I'm in the process of doing about 3 or 4 right now in various stages of either planning or post-planning, making sure that they actually get installed. In this case, we did a study in 2019, 2020, and made some recommendations to help them better isolate the space. Because what they have is an enclosed loop system, right? So the grow rooms go around in a circle, they go outside, they get, the humidity gets pulled out, they get conditioned to the right temperature, it goes back in. It's fine until obviously someone breaks the seal, and breaking the seal is typically opening a door. And if you open the door, then some of that can leak out into the room. The rooms are generally under positive pressure, though some places do it the other way around. In this particular one, the grow rooms are positive pressure, so when you open the door, there's a little bit of leakage that goes into the hallways, and that's so that you can maintain a good control over potential pathogens or other problems that might get in there. So keeping the contaminants out. So obviously when it opens, then you go into the hallways, and there's a little bit of residual odor there. Part of the reason for this update is there's more than just that little odor that's coming into the hallways. There's all kinds of things stored in there, and this is a fairly new industry for Massachusetts, and I think they've learned when they went from 2019 and 20 when we were out there the first time to now that there's a lot more space that's needed for the ancillary equipment and so on. So while the growing is maxed out, the processing of it could be done more efficiently with these other places. By doing this, they're going to reduce the amount of times that the doors are open, because right now there are things in the hallways and things that people are going around, so the doors aren't opening and closing. The other thing is we recommended that they install systems within the hallways, 2 carbon systems that are constantly just recirculating the hallways to knock that down. Also, they're going to put one in the offices. I believe they were getting them they had some from another facility, and they were actually, one of them might be installed now, and the other 2 are going in shortly, and that's we're going to go back to the Board of Health and discuss the improvements of that in the next 6 to 8 weeks. Part of this program is, so then also there's an exhaust, because they're trying to keep the hallway space is negative. So there's an exhausting that's occurring through the roof. The original plan was for carbon units to be installed in the crawl space between the grow room and the roof line. And the problem with that is, which I don't like at all, is you can't monitor it that well because it's too high up. You have to climb a ladder, walk across the grow room roof, which isn't really designed to be walked on, and go and check stuff. So my guess is it hasn't been checked as much as possible. Part of this will be to relocate and install new carbon systems that are permanent, not so the recirculating ones are going around. This is to scrub it before it's exhausted. These will be new ones that will be placed on the ground in an area where they can monitor it better and replace the carbon when it becomes spent. So that's going to go into the utility room that was shown on the plans. I hadn't seen these new plans either. They're new to me. Mm-hmm. The ones I have, there's a utility room, and now I don't know where it is. So we'll have to work that out. But again, we're not talking about the insides now. What is going to go on the insides relative to odor is someplace there will be this exhaust system for the odor control. And what that will do is we're going to connect the building to the other building. There will be minimal added odor from here. There'll be some from the extraction area, but very minimal. It's, right now, it's just, they're gonna relocate the extraction that's taking place in the other building into a dedicated area here. So there'll be some pickups in those areas, and then the main thing is there'll be pickups from the building where the grow room doors open and close. And that will have a substantial improvement to the odor right now. We did a study in 2019.
What? Can you just let him finish before you, and I'll let you
Yeah,
ask questions.
I'll
after.
answer any question you have in a minute.
I missed the word you said after odor. Did you say odor nightmare?
Right now.
No, I don't think I would have used that word. The odor right now.
Well, it's kind of a nightmare in the neighborhood.
No. Can we let him finish, please, and then I'll open up.
So we did this study in 2019 and 2020, and one of the things were the odor that was getting into the hallways, try to minimize that from coming into the front area. You just heard Sue speak about the number of employees and things. There were way less employees back at that time, but still they installed some air curtains to prevent the air from going from the let's call it processing grow area to the office space. In the office space, they also have the employees' lockers, right? So there is some residual odor that still comes through even with those air curtains going, and that's why we recommended the added odor control system, the recirculating one, for in there. But the air curtains are working that we recommended before. We came back and we did an odor study this year, and we noticed that because it's been 5 years, the stuff that's going outside, going through the systems and coming back in, they're all pressurized, either negative or positive, whether they're before or after the fan. And there's a bunch of access hatches for maintenance, and they're all gasketed. And then they're actually, you go in and you turn them and keep a pressure on them. Well, those type of seals, being outside in the sun, can become brittle over time. And some of those were leaking a little bit. And so as part of our odor survey, we noticed those, and they've begun replacing, and I think have replaced most of those. The other, so if you think about the odor going around in a circle the whole time, the way the odor actually kind of gets out is it dissolves in the water. The water's knocked down in the dehumidification. Then the water is sent back and treated to be reused for the next grow cycle. The pump system going back, again, was 5 years old. The lines were starting to get a little bit gummed up with, minerals and organic material, and that was going a little slow. So there was too much water in there, so they weren't sucking the odor out as much as they could. So they either cleaned or replaced those lines. And when we went back to the Board of Health meeting last week, it was clear that the odor had improved from where it was when they were getting complaints in the April timeframe, and then that was mostly related to that. The other part of it is this residual or fugitive odor that we want to get knocked down too. But so that part that was sort of the spike where people were complaining, that has been reduced. It'll be further reduced by the recirculating fans, and even reduced further with approval of this. The goal is, if this can get approved fairly quickly, is to try to push forward the odor control portion of this so that it's up and running by next summer, because that's the main thing, right? To me, it's always about odor. Odor season is like Memorial Day to 4th of July. That's the beginning. Got to have things in by then. The normal process, I think, for the whole building would be even longer than that, but we want to push this stuff forward.
So you have a action plan and cut sheets and everything else that you've submitted to the Board of Health, correct?
For the new system?
Well, yeah, to address the issues, new system, old system, the whole thing. We're not going to approve anything until we make sure that the issues that were in the old system are taken care of along with the new system. So my point is, you have I guess an action plan is what I'm asking for. So that's something we can send out to a consultant to make sure that we're not making the situation any worse.
Yes.
We want the cut sheets of the
Right.
equipment that you're going to use, all of that, so we can
Right.
send it out to a consultant quickly as possible.
Exactly, right, yeah.
Okay.
So the facility has been finalizing an odor management plan, but that's related to all the things that are existing.
Mhm.
This stuff doesn't exist yet, but I can develop what it will be and include that in with the package. Because right now, the thing, it's an OMP, as we call it, it's a living and breathing document, so it's always at whatever it is now. So this stuff could be added in as the post auxiliary building part of it, okay?
Well, my point is, the people that are here right now want to make sure that what you're doing is going to fix the existing problem and not make the new part be part of the problem as well. So we need to have an expert come in.
Absolutely.
To check, like you would be if we hired you to check.
I agree with you 100%.
So-
If I was working for you as the reviewer, I would require the same thing. So there you go.
I'm just asking whether you
Yes.
think something like that will be available.
That will be available, that's not available today because, again, this is the overview and we know it's not going to be done in one shot here. So we can submit that as we go to talk about.
And my point is, the sooner you do that, I know your time is of the essence and everything else like that, the quicker you get that out, the quicker we get,
Right on.
okay?
Yeah,
So
I'm
that we
with
can
you.
speak intelligently to address all the issues these people are
Did you
gonna
hear
raise.
that? Nick's the one who needs to hear
All the
that.
people that are raise their hands in 2 minutes and tell me that there's an odor there and what are we gonna do about it, I just wanna have an answer for them.
I agree with you.
I'm being preemptive because I know
Yes.
that's what they're gonna tell me.
All right, good.
Thank you.
Now I think it's time for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions or concerns? Name, please,
Yeah.
Maren, please.
Hi, my name is Mark Forgas. I live at 1249 Hill Road, about 100 yards from them. And I had a contractor at my house about 20 days ago who said, "Who's doing pot? Who's doing pot?" Now, I'm old. I was,
You still got it, brother.
I love you, man. Anyway, the deal is that the odor that has proliferated through our community, which has been absolutely, and you just said there's nothing that's available now.
What do you mean?
No, his design, that's all he's
The
saying.
design is not available.
Right.
I want to know, you're doing recirculation, you're doing water management, you put the odor into the water. I want to know when I can expect to get out of my house in the morning at dark 30,
Yeah.
6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and not get a waft of pot.
Right, when it's the
And I'm
stillest.
not, I didn't do pot when I was younger. I do a little to sleep tonight. But I gotta tell you, it's distressing when I'm out and when my grandkids come over and there's an odor. And I'm literally a ballpark away from you. And I wanna know when it's gonna stop. And I certainly don't want it to expand if you don't have a control system in place
Yes.
to make this management possible. Because those of us who moved in there 20 years ago, who now have this inflicted on us, want to know how you're going to make it happen. That's all I'm asking.
And we was told there'd be no smell.
Say again?
We were told there'd be no.
Name, please, for
Yeah,
Maren, please.
yeah, well,
Lots of stuff we were told. We
Okay.
were told lots of
so
things.
how can we expect? When can we expect? At what time can we expect that your plant
Your plan.
is not going to end up inflicting on us the odor from growing?
You've been
That's all I'm
there-
asking.
You've been there 20 years?
20 years.
I've been there 50. Long while. Long.
And we were told that this would be, and I saw the vent pipes. I drive by there every evening. I look at all the vent pipes, and they're 4x4, and they're huge, and I get that. Yet, with all that venting that's available on the side of the building, why do we still get all the downdraft? Why do we get the downwind smell? Help me understand.
Yeah, I think it's because the exhaust system is not working well. The
So how do we
original one.
fix that before we expand this?
Exactly, well, I think the idea is in order to manage it properly, you've got to monitor it. And that's part of writing the OM.
Why wasn't it monitored earlier?
Well, anyway,
I'm sorry.
I'm trying not to have a debate about it. I'm
Okay.
trying to get an answer out of him for our next meeting so that he has a plan and everything that we can see in black and blue.
Just
And
this
we totally, I totally understand.
Nick, you want to say something?
Yeah, may I speak?
Sure.
Yeah, Nicholas Mary, 234 Taylor Street. I do want to just clarify a couple quick things for you. I think the vent pipes that you're referring to on the side are just for our boilers. Those are not, the steam coming out, is that what you're seeing?
No, the big Y-shaped, and there's multiple Y-shaped along the left-hand side and a couple more. They're big, huge 4x4 square vent pipes. I'm assuming they're for ventilation for the growth. I get that.
Yes, that is
But
part
I
of
want to
the,
know why there's not a control for the exhaust.
yep, that is part of that, the closed loop system, are those big ducts coming off of the building, the big Y shape that you're seeing all
It's
along
not
the side.
closed.
So those are the closed loop things. Another thing I just do want to clarify for all the neighbors is that the expansion will not contribute to the grow at all. The grow is obviously, you know, the plant, the flower of the cannabis plant is what smells, right? So the expansion is actually to help us expand for just packaging and its storage and whatnot. So it's not expanding the grow at all. So I do want to clarify that for you. Then another thing that we have been doing, which he did just discuss, is we have been monitoring, we've been following all the new equipment, everything new that we can do to mitigate smell, we've been doing. We've been constantly working on things. So when Mike and his team came out recently and found those few things, okay, we can always improve on that. So adding those carbon filtration systems to the inside of the building is going to help the exhaust by scrubbing the air before it goes. Now that exhaust is to just keep the pressure negative in the building so that there's nothing going out of the sides, out of the seams, out of the doors, anything like that. It's going out of a controlled space. So now when it was originally engineered, I think the carbon system was not sufficient to really control any of that. So that's why adding additional carbon filtration we feel is really going to help with that.
So my opinion is activated charcoal, negative pressure systems, and I work in burn units and paramedic. I understand negative pressure systems. But unless you have a filtration system at the far end of that system,
Yes.
it's not going to work. So therefore, unless you have that problem fixed, I am diametrically opposed to any expansion at any end of the system. And I know the grow system is not part of this. You're talking about packaging and management. I understand that. But I'm telling you that unless you fix the output, I am diametrically opposed to any expansion anywhere in this system because you have failed to meet your original criteria, which was there would be no odor.
Okay, so
That's my point. I'm done.
I think he gets that, and I think the board shares that opinion. We're not gonna, we have a chance to look at, to bite the apple a second time, and it's obvious that there's a smell issue because we've been hearing about it from years, and the residents have been coming on a regular basis, so that's why we get the action plan, we get the cut sheets of everything, we hire a consultant of our own to address it, then we move forward. But we're not moving forward until we make sure that we're not making the system any worse, that we're actually improving what's out there.
Yep, and I totally agree, and I respect that. One part of the expansion is to assist with the mitigation, with the smell, with the odor mitigation. Part of the expansion is where, as Michael was stating, part of the expansion plan in that building is to put in a end-of-the-line filtration system for the odor.
The way I like to explain it is you want a belt, you want suspenders, right? And then you want to add a rope too, right? You want to keep the pants. If one of those things go, we want the other thing to work. So that's why putting in those recirculating ones, that's like the suspenders, okay, to knock it down. And then this is going to be the belt, and the rope is making sure that all the systems are always tight. That's part of the O&M plan that I've been working with Nick. So because they never really, it's not really written into the policies, odor, and that's what the O&M plan does. So nobody was really checking to see if those seals were aging, right? So, but now they will.
Okay, that's great, and like I said, moving forward, we'll have a
Right.
consultant look at it, but the belts and the suspenders, you should be buying your belts and suspenders right now, before we even approve what's going on here, to make the situation better for the residents, before you even get an addition. That's where we're willing to work with you, we're willing to expedite this, however we have to do it, but that's the end goal, is to make sure that everybody around there is not gonna be impacted by the smell that as it is today or any smell in the future.
Absolutely.
And I think that we actually share the exact same approach, because we discussed, do we want to design something and bring it in for this meeting, or do we want to listen to what people have to say, and then submit?
We need a design, we need to send it out.
Exactly.
And you guys, I know, want to work quickly, so the sooner you get it to us, the sooner we hire a consultant
Right.
and everything else, the better off I think the residents are going to be and we're going to be. The board have any questions before I open it up to residents, or this is so preliminary that I think we've given them.
Mr. Chair. Mr.
Wait,
Chair.
I just want to ask us first and then, it's you? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I wanted to say that the abutters have clearly been there for a lot longer. The fact is that they were first, and so I really resent the fact that Sanctuary has not fixed this, and it is so frustrating that there are no consequences for the lack of action taken by Sanctuary to actually fix this problem once and for all. I want to make sure that Mr. Lannon understands the plan is to eliminate the odor, because what I heard him say during the Board of Health meeting was that his goal is that there not be a nuisance to change perception. I'm not sure what that means, but those are his words. Not to be non-odorous. So that means that his goal is not to be non-odorous. I don't know what that means, but I want to be perfectly clear. Everything within the jurisdiction of the planning board needs to be to protect the residents against this problem. As we heard earlier, some residents, have been living there and living with this for over 5 years. So we need to do something about it, and we need to ensure that there are consequences. I also wanted to bring up to the planning board members, in case you were not aware, one of the discussion points from the Board of Health meeting was a dashboard idea that I actually believe is something that should be considered. It's basically something that can be done online to provide updates back and forth between the residents and Sanctuary, someplace where the residents can go in and log a time when there is odor that is emanating, and that Sanctuary is then responsible for doing something about it.
Yes,
So
please.
that should be something that should be considered.
Thank you. Very quickly, before I open it.
Yeah, very quickly. So I'll just open it up. I don't know if I can do it quickly, but I'll do it almost quickly. How's that? All right. So when I say the goal is not no odor, because scientifically there's no such thing as no odor. There's odor everywhere. Okay. The point of an odor control system that you want on a facility like this is you don't want to be experiencing that system any more than you're experiencing background conditions. And that's always the goal. The goal is not every time, where'd he go? The guy who was there.
Bathroom.
Well, every time he goes outside, he smells it. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, on certain occasions, there might be some odor from something that happened that was unusual, like those seals were not working, and then they fix it. But the belts and the suspenders and the rope are supposed to make sure that the everyday smells are so that you don't recognize the facility.
That's fine, but my point about the dashboard is, how is Sanctuary going to know when there's a problem? Because they tend to close their eyes and their ears to what's actually going on outside their
Okay,
building.
we can address that. I'm trying to get a system down in a procedure down so that we can see if what they're proposing is actually going to work. Okay? Sir in the background.
Yes, my name is Jim Curran. I'm at 236 Taylor Street. And believe it or not, the process of dialogue with the community and Sanctuary, I think, is working. There's been a substantial improvement since the seals on the plant were fixed. It's a big improvement, and I speak as a next door neighbor. So I think this step by step, trying to make it better, it's, from my standpoint, it's making progress. It's going in the right direction. It's working. In terms of a dashboard, I have a program on my cell phone which is free. It's called Smell My City. It was developed for industrial odors in Pittsburgh. It's free, you can put it on your cell phone. It would not be a matter of much effort at all to simply have a consolidated destination for the spreadsheet updates that puts out, and that would probably meet the needs that you're talking about. But I think we should give ourselves a little credit here, because I think it's much better than it was 6 months ago.
That's nice to hear. Anyone else before I?
A question.
Name for Myron, please.
Pardon?
Name for Myron, please.
Nancy Morrison, 1256 Hill Road, diagonal across from it. We get the smell all the time. My grandchildren hate it. They're 7 and 9 years old and tell me that the neighborhood stinks. But the other question I had, before they fixed their septic system, there was a river of water running down through the back to the brook. It goes down to Foster Street, the pond down there, and it goes down to Buckley Road, the pond down there. Has that ever been tested for contamination for those 2 ponds? I don't know if the Board of Health has ever tested it, or if we just stick our head in the sand and say it's not a problem, because we might have contaminated from their runoff from their building. I don't know. I'd like that checked out.
We'll ask the Board of Health to look into it. Thank you. Anybody else? Obviously, we're not even going to scratch the surface. We're going to wait for all your stuff so we can send it out to consultant. Do you want to continue till September? Is that good?
When would it be in September?
7 or 14?
7 or 14?
14 would be a full board. So,
I will be out of town on the 14th. But I think I can do the 7th.
The 7th of September? Very quickly, sir.
So I understand it, Mark Fortis, 1249 Hill Road, is that this is on hold until September? Is that?
Nothing's going to, this is the preliminary discussion. We're not even close. We're sending out, whatever they're going to propose to us, we're going to send out to a consultant to see if what they're proposing actually works. That's what we're doing next. I'm waiting for them to come back with an action plan that shows the equipment they're going to use, the procedures that are going to be involved, the negative pressure, the positive pressure. Then we send it out, and we have a third party decide whether this works or doesn't work, and we start moving forward then. But nothing can be done until that's taken care of. Very quickly.
Super quickly, John Murnier, 13 Crane Road. I would also like to add future looking. I know you've been there for 5 years, and it seems like there was some systems and processes missed, or there's breakdowns in the actual mechanisms. How do we know in 5 years this isn't going to happen again? Is there an action plan in place in terms of checking and not just monitoring? I don't want this to be a Band-Aid solution. We're a young family. We have a 1-year-old. We plan to be living here for a long, long time. I don't want to be having this conversation again, and let alone a year from now, not 5 years from now, right? So what is the action plan in terms of not just this being a Band-Aid solution for right now, but moving forward so we're not...
I'll answer that for him. Whatever he proposes, there's going to be a maintenance schedule that will have to be involved, and all those checks, and probably an inspection process on some sort of regular basis, just like we do if there's a water issue or anything else. We'll have monitoring wells, we'll have monitoring stuff, that kind of stuff. Very quickly, because then...
Chris Maurice, 1254 Hill Road, first weekend of June. My son, we had our high school graduation party, 84 guests. The majority of them came into the party and smelled marijuana as soon as they got out of the car and throughout our backyard during this party that we spent thousands of dollars on. That was very concerning. Aside from this family with young ones, we have, children 15, 19 now, but at the time we were smelling marijuana at the bus stop. We know actions have been taken, to help with that, but, it's not every day, but it's some days where we just drive through, and I've been asked to send emails. I have here and there, Board of Health here and there, but I just am so busy, I just don't have time. But had we known this in 2005, we would not have purchased our home. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to continue till the 7th?
September 7th, so if we do this one at 7 o'clock?
I won't be available, but I think that what I hear from you is get the plan in,
Mhm.
You're gonna send it out anyway.
Right.
Then after that, we can have the meeting with your guy, your
Absolutely.
person. and my
The
person.
sooner that you get the plan to us and we can send it out.
I
to
think that's the
consultants.
key. That's what I heard from you today.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
And what I heard from you guys is the O&M plan, the odor management plan. That's what he's working on. Because you have to remember, like, I do this all the time, like, solid waste facilities too, like transfer stations. Their job isn't to manage odor, like, in their job description. It's to do whatever their job description is, right? So the key is you gotta have the odor management plan as part of the job description. And that's what we're, so that somebody is going around and checking for the seals leaking before they leak, or when they start to leak, as opposed to after a bunch are leaking.
I'm
Those are
sorry.
complaints. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Odor management, if you're growing marijuana, is a major part of the plan.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Well, you just said it's not management.
Yeah,
it
when
is.
people are hired
Yeah,
to
it
work,
is.
they're hired to
All
do
right.
a certain job, and it's usually not included in their job description.
Well, you know what? We need to include that.
You're right.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Totally agree. All right, so we're continuing until the 7th at
At 7 o'clock?
7 o'clock. Thank you. And as soon as you get the stuff and you,
Yeah, get it to you, and then you can send it out.
because we're gonna need a price from them, and then you have to agree to pay it and all that. Sooner the better.
Okay,
Thank
that
you.
sounds good.
Thank you. Thank you all
Thank
for
you.
coming, by the way.
Okay.
I think we're done.
Yeah, we're done.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Anna. Hope you're feeling better.